What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Unmute.
It helps to unmute, doesn't it? And I'd just given the winning lottery numbers. Hello, I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and welcome to our Sacred Sunday edition of The Awakening World. And we have a beautiful show with two of my favorite guests, and of course, beloved brother Omashar is here. I want to welcome those of you in our Zoom room. Let us know where you are geographically. And I see a lot of our friends, Kiki and Scotty and Reverend Jeffrey and Karen, and I know more will be joining soon. But I also want to welcome all of you who are watching on Facebook. And a big thanks to John and Summer Raymer. They get us out to as many as last time we had 110 groups and pages watching us on Facebook, and that's pretty cool. And if you are watching, I want to invite you to come and join the Global Peace Tribe. It's a really wonderful group of people. We do 3 or sometimes more shows every week, bringing to you all sorts of amazing things around consciousness and how we really can awaken together. And it's easy to join. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, click the link, and that'll take you to the registration page. And these are just some of the wonderful guests that are regulars on our show, regular co-hosts like Kristen Hoffman and Larissa Stowe. I'm on Larissa's property right now. And these are the kinds of shows we do. On Friday night, we were watching amazing videos of the past and talking about the great mysteries of life. Last night was a powerful show all about grief literacy. And then here we are, today's show, and you're about to meet Joy and Shariah, two amazing women who have some wonderful tools and practices to share. So definitely join us. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's a wonderful group, and we've got it really tight. We're beginning to do retreats together now, and it's a lovely community. So if you're looking for like-minded souls, come join the Global Peace Tribe. And let me just briefly introduce you to who we're going to be with for the next 90 minutes. As always, we have our beautiful beloved brother Omashar, who will be providing musical offerings. And this is my friend Joy Nordenstrom, and she is all about the joy of romance. She helps people find each other and stay together. Boy, isn't that what we all want and need? We either want to find the right one, or we want to work it out with the one we're with. So Joy's going to help us with that. You just saw our website. You know, this is the woman who helped design and create it. I realized that as I was showing it, Shariah, it's like, whoa, you're the one who built this website. So Shariah has been a big part of Global Peace Tribe. And she is one of those people who's wise about many, many things. And today she's going to be talking about forgiveness. And she's also going to start us off with our Sacred Sunday morning drop-in, morning meditation. So take it away, Shariah. And you're muted, dear.
Okay, I too was giving the winning lottery numbers. They will remain a secret. No. Just tune in and let's bring in the winning lottery numbers. Okay. And we're going to win the prize today of some upgrades in our understanding and ability to interact in our relationships. So I'm very grateful for Joy and Omashar and Scott and all of you present here today. And I would just love to invite us into that sacred heart center where we can remember the love that we are together as one today. So breathing in, I just invite you to take a nice breath into your heart center. Dropping the mind for a moment, knowing that all its busyness and trying to sort data and information you can always be returned to. But for now, we're just allowing the mind to rest in the heart. And you can imagine with each breath that your consciousness goes deeper and deeper into that beautiful center, the center of the center of the center of your being, your essence, that spark of spirit, which is your true essence, your true home. Om, we are one. Yes, and breathing in, imagining that spark of light radiating out above, below, and all around about you as a beautiful sphere of light and love that begins to wash away all the hurts and pains of the past and begins to remind you of all the glorious visions and positive, uplifting desires of your heart. And so as you breathe in here, let's just take a moment and acknowledge our ancestors, our mother, our father, their parents. And let me just check in and see how many generations we want to go back today to start us off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's imagine 5 generations of ancestors now that they are here with us, also blessing us, loving us, wanting the best for us, and also willing to be cleansed, cleared, cleaned, healed, and forgiven for anything that they got caught up in that ended up repercussing to this time, causing you difficulty in your relationships. Obviously, they were innocent of these things. They didn't know what they didn't know, but any pain that repercussed into this time from the ancestral lineage, if you would like to cleanse, clear, clean, heal, and forgive that now, just say yes. And the high selves will get to the mighty work of cleansing the energy field with unconditional love for any suffering and pain that our ancestors went through in the arena of relationships. We are in total forgiveness of this. We're asking the subconscious mind to be cleansed of those imprints. Total forgiveness of all hurts and harms done 5 generations back. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, sexual, psychic, relational, and in any other way. We're asking for this top level clearing to just clean away the dust so we can be even more receptive to further healing, insight, and blessings that we are going to experience today. And so now, asking that beautiful golden light of pure divine love to recalibrate now our body, mind, spirit complex based on this brief clearing. If you want that, just say yes. And see if you get a signal. Notice if you feel some energy moving in your system. Notice if you're having any insights. And if you'd like the update and the upgrade of the records and your functioning of all of your systems in your body, mind, spirit complex, just say yes to that as well. And notice if you get a signal. A signal is anything you might feel. It could be a body sensation or a movement or even a burp or a ripple. Whatever it is, just notice if any energy is moving. Notice if there are any messages from your ancestors who love you very, very much. Let's take a moment in the silence together and receive any messages from our ancestors, our God, source, our guides that might want to come through for us today in preparation for this meeting. And knowing that all is well as the message, whether it comes through now or later or in dream time tonight, that it is sure to come and sure to be a great blessing. We give thanks, we give thanks, we give thanks, so be it, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Shariah, and namaste and aloha, everyone. And I have a little song called I Am So Blessed. It's something that we can all sing together. I'll put it in the chat. And in honor of the 5 generations back, we'll sing it 5 times. It's a real short thing. Here it is in the chat. And feel free to use it. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. Sing along. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. 3 more times. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. Here's a humming one. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. We are so blessed, we are so blessed, we are so grateful for all that we have. We are so blessed, we are so blessed, we are so grateful, we are so blessed. So blessed and so grateful.
Beloved Omashar, we are blessed for you to be with us for every show, bringing you beautiful music. I'm just so grateful for you and your presence in my life and in the awakening world. And a reminder, everybody, we can support Omashar by going to his Bandcamp page. It's omashar.bandcamp.com. And get his albums. I clicked through to Zenith this time, but there are many there. Shine On, The Flower of Life, Beautiful Garden, and Illuminate. Let's all illuminate with Omashar. Thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
Well, I'm going to introduce my friend Joy Nordenstrom, and we've known each other a very long time. I've always appreciated her name befits her. She always has joy. And even though she's gone through her share of challenges in life, but Joy, you always faced your challenges with so much love and so much joy and so much positive energy. And you help bring people together and keep them together. And boy, that's especially important. You know, we're both coaches. And I tell you, it's been a rough time, especially with COVID and climate change and war in Europe and all the difficulties in the world. Oftentimes it's hard for people who are in relationship to maintain a healthy relationship, and for those who are single to find relationships. So you are offering such beautiful tools, and welcome to the awakening world.
Oh, I'm so blessed to be here, Scott. I'm so excited that I get to be on your show after all these years. We've known each other for over 15 years. I think maybe close to 16. Yeah. And Scott was actually at the very first year of courses and classes and events that I hosted. So I so appreciate you being a cheerleader from early on. And we just resonated, like I think we've known each other lifetimes. So
Yeah,
I,
it
I,
feels like
I
that.
yeah, so I so appreciate you and to be a part of such a magnificent tribe you've created over the last several years.
Joy, my opening question for you, share with us a success story. Share with us maybe a story either of someone who's single that you help them find love, or if you prefer, a couple that was challenged that you help them come back together.
Yeah, so I'd like to share a couple, change the names, I guess, but there was a one gentleman, and he was a part of my matchmaking database. When he came to me, he's very good looking and just has a ticking in many different areas of his life. And he said, Joy, I'm a part of a few other matchmakers databases, but every time I meet with you, I feel like I've just moved from like this somebody who has a magical divining rod putting pictures together to this Harvard PhD, like educated, science-based understanding of who I am in partnership and who I am, who would be a good fit for me. And I just appreciated that so much. So he was just he did some coaching with me. He stayed in the database, and then probably about 2 years of watching him kind of, date on his own, always asking me, coming back and asking questions. This woman came to me and I started doing some coaching with her. And I'm like, this is the one. This is the one. And I told him, I kind of whispered, I was like, hey, I think I might have found you the one. He's like, well, let me meet her. And I was like, no, she is not ready whatsoever. She had just gotten out of a relationship where she was dealing with a extreme narcissist, and she had had a lot of trauma in her childhood. So I said, we got to do our work together first, but I'll hold the space and, you do whatever you need to do. And he touched bases every month or so. And it took about 6 months, and we were able to work together, this woman and I helped her clear that. The process that I go through, I help people understand their top 10 relationship patterns. So I let them see which of these are just core to who you are. You're born with them. And if you understand them, then you're not going to be blindly piloted by them. And you can really see what would be a good puzzle piece as a fit for you as a partner. Some of the patterns in these top 10 patterns, when you put them together, they're an oil and water combination. So you might inadvertently be confusing somebody. And I love to help people understand where those might be so that prior to getting in the relationship where somebody, even if they don't know the names of the patterns, they sense them. And so they'll be traveling down this path and kind of starting to futurescape with being with you together. And then one day you went, "Er," and you went down that path, and they're like, didn't see that coming. That was kind of odd, but we'll just kind of gloss over that, sweep that under the rug, and keep going down this path together. In the future, that has been a micro tear in your foundation with that individual. And when they inevitably need you to really be there for them, and they can really know that they're trusting in you with this vulnerability, that comes back as like a micro PTSD moment. Their body goes, oh no, remember that? So if you can forewarn people about that, that's really important. And I love to teach people about how to do that in a way that's encouraging the person to help them understand who they are, and really like not put a story or a label to that, but to understand the big picture of who they are. Then the last one is there's some weak links that we have in these patterns. It could be a primary or a secondary. And when you understand that, it's the same thing. You can forewarn somebody and explain, hey, this might happen, but you know what? I've done my work. This is who I want to be because that has happened to me. But when I'm in kind of a pressure cooker situation, stressed out, that might come out. And I'm asking if you would be there for me to help see me as who I want to be. And here are some gifts on how to support me in returning to my most stable, centered place. So we went through that. We also did a clearing that I do, helping people understand where their self-limiting beliefs come from. And when you're in an undefended state and you're not in a, couples way down the road having challenges and their defenses are up, but in the very beginning, you can just see this clearly. So we come up with a timeline from actually in utero to your current life age of stories. And then I bring in a kinesiologist and we go through and we help understand where those ones are connected, in particular, because you're working with me, to your relationship, your ability to manifest and maintain a thriving relationship. Then I help people go through and we see, okay, which of the 7 core self-limiting beliefs are connected to this, and being able to then create a series of meditations for them, grounding, clearing, and then bringing in the I ams of who they want to be. So with that, she became much more like grounded. She had done a lot of clearing. She knew who she wanted to be. She knew who was going to be a good choice for her. And he had knocked a few times going, is she ready? Is she ready? And he said, I don't think she exists. And I said, okay, I'm going to send you a picture. And there was this beautiful picture of her running down a creek and you could see her from behind and she slightly turned her face. And I said, I'm just going to tell you that I'm on the right track. So this is a photo of her. And he's like, oh yeah. That's the right track. And I said, okay, then just one more month and she's almost there. So I introduced them and they've just passed a year and 2 months now, and they are incredibly in love. And I was also able to help them. So what I do with couples is I bring the 2 sets of patterns together and help them see how those fit. So again, where do they just naturally connect as these puzzle pieces? Where might there be some oil and water combinations? And then where might their weak links be, so that we can proactively learn how to deal with conflict from the very, very beginning. And so it's just been beautiful to see this evolution. And we're always going to have disagreements. John Gottman says that 69% of all marital issues stay with the couple through the lifetime of their partnership. So that in and of itself is like, okay, we really need to make knowing how to deal with conflict and putting the steps in place very, very beginning when our love drugs are really high, to be there, because that's the sticky sauce. That's like, do the work up front and then your marriage or your relationship will be able to handle the test of time together. But if you start doing that later, it makes it very much more challenging. So
I love that. I just, what a thorough approach to creating like the most important thing in our life, our long-term partnerships. And I just appreciate all the work you did and made mental note of about a dozen things I want to talk to you about today. But they're in my head because I want to bring on Shariah. But God bless you, Joy, for doing that wonderful work. And what a wonderful service you provide. So
thank you, Scott.
we will have much more joy coming on the Awakening World. Here's Shariah. And Shariah, I love that you dedicated the opening meditation to our ancestors. And our ancestors get a bad rap a lot of the time. How often do we hear people blaming their alcoholism or their low self-esteem or their hurtful patterns on their family lineage? And it's true that we carry the sins of the fathers, so to speak, but our ancestors busted their tails to give us the freedom that we have today. They worked 3 jobs, they crossed the plains, they fought in the wars, they survived famines, and we have so much freedom and independence today. Now it's our turn to pay it back by doing the work to clear those ancestral patterns. So I love the work you're doing, and I'd love to just have you share a little bit more with our audience right now.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, it's let's start with this concept called compounded momentum in the nature of the law. So compounded momentum in the nature of the law indicates what we're dealing with these repercussing patterns that Joy was so eloquently and specifically speaking to. And as well as what you're mentioning with the ancestors and what we did in the clearing before. Over eons of time, we have created through our thinking, our feeling, our imagination, and we've not only created individually, but we've created collectively systems, ways of life, deep set beliefs on everything from religion to politics to how life is to the world as we know it to be now. And the problem with being a creator in a platform like this, our earth plane, is that we tend to fall into forgetfulness in certain periods of time. So now we're talking expanded large planetary cycles. And in certain cycles, in certain large planetary cycles, we are more awake to the fact that our words and our feelings create actions that then repercuss and cause more actions like them throughout time. But as time progresses in these large cycles that the ancient Indian Vedic culture called yugas, now we are starting to fall into forgetfulness about who we are and how we create and how these things in our lives and in our world start manifesting. And as that happens, also the ego gets more developed in what we might call a distortion way, in a way of distortion, which is some of the imprints that Joy was talking about there, those different imprints that are very specific, that then cause us to create from those belief systems and those patterns more distortion into the future. So that's why we call it compounded momentum in the nature of the law. And of course, we, if you believe in other lifetimes, which I imagine many of you do, we in other lifetimes fell into different levels of patterns and patterning and belief systems, which caused more of the same, which caused even more flavors, like a tree growing with branches bearing seed. Each thought, each action is a seed, and this is what we call karma. And then we reap it later because that which goes out comes back to us. But once we've fallen into this level of forgetfulness, now we're like, what? Why me? What? How? When? Where? Who? It's very confusing. But when we're at a place at the end of a yuga, end of a cycle, where we're beginning to head back homeward to that higher consciousness, which allows us to realize what's actually going on and to get the reins of the horse and to start steering it where we want it to go, instead of just being driven by our subconscious patterns and all these imprints. So where did these imprints come from? They came from past lives, early childhood, cultural conditioning, and the ancestral lineage. Now, all of these things happened and imprinted us in ways that we're not fully conscious of now. So the Divine Mother aspect says, we are innocent. You must claim your shield of innocence. You did not mean to jack your life up in these various ways. And the Divine Father gives us a sword of truth, which points to the crux of the biscuits, like only you can fix it inside of yourself by taking responsibility. And in order to take that responsibility, we must also bear the mantle of humility and humbleness. Now, humility is not the same as humiliation. So we're not to beat ourselves up. We're to lift ourselves up and love ourselves unconditionally as we embrace the shadow and the patterns, as Joy was so eloquently speaking to. And we then begin to do the mighty work of transmuting them. And so that is what I have been doing with people as well, is helping people to transmute these patterns so that we can think in a straight line. Now we can begin to co-create what we desire without all the junk in the trunk of the subconscious mind causing more repercussion in the non-desired direction. So instead, we start turning our thoughts, feelings, and actions into the direction that's going to bear that positive fruit that we all want in our lives and our relationships.
Boom. Boom. Let's just breathe that in for a moment. That was beautiful download.
Thank you. I said that comprehension is key here. Yes.
As you were speaking, Shariah, one of the things I take away from it is, we do get lost in the illusion of separation. And you're doing a beautiful job of giving us tools for how to, again, what's the name of the show? To awaken, to wake up. And I liked very much your understanding or your expression of how we can work with the Divine Mother energy and with the Divine Father energy. That's beautiful. I'm going to bring Joy back on, so all three of us will be here. And I have a thought that leads to a question for you both. The people who study these things have learned that pheromones talk to each other. And when people are at procreation age and they're a good genetic match, the pheromones talk to each other, and that actually creates sexual chemistry, and it creates people being attracted to each other. And that happens when people are at procreation age. Most of our audience are beyond procreation age. But I have a theory, and I'm going to share the theory, and then I want to hear if the two of you can relate or resonate with it if you've observed it. My theory is that when we're beyond procreation age and we attract somebody, and there's a strong mutual, keyword, strong mutual attraction, it's not about, oh, we're a good genetic match to make a baby. We are a good karmic match to work on our wounding, to work on our patterns, to work on the issues. Like what Joy said about John Gottman's thing, that the majority of our issues will be with us for the majority of our time. So we attract somebody where her anxious attachment style totally triggers his avoidant attachment style, right? Which can either be really hard, or if they have tools like Joy offered, they go, oh, okay, wow. When you get needy, I get scared, I pull away, you feel afraid, you go, and there's our pattern. As a coach, I call it the misery go round that people can create. So I'm just curious if you've observed that similar energetic thing, that people are really strongly attracted, also perfectly trigger each other's issues, especially older in life. Does that resonate for you all?
Absolutely. Yes. Joy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that that the karmic thing happens no matter what age you are. I think that it's really like you're attracting somebody that's going to help you get out of that hamster wheel and move on to the next one and the next one of what the challenges are. If you're open to that, if you're not going to be resistant of it, if you're choosing to go, oh, okay, yeah, you're the person who's going to poke that thing that my dad did to me, and that thing that my mom did, and that thing from way back when. So I think everybody that's in front of you that you're dating is there for a reason and a purpose to grow and to learn from. And I still think that the chemistry, I mean, I have individuals I'm working with who are 83 years young, and they are still incredibly sexually vibrant. So I don't think the chemistry thing turns off at any particular age. And I've had many people I worked with in their late 70s and 80s. So it's not just the pheromones too. It's we're sniffing somebody's major histocompatibility gene if we're both females and males, but more so for females, because we're trying to, when we're in those years procreating, we want to procreate with somebody who has the polar opposite immune system to us, so that we can give our children the best immune system possible. Unfortunately, when women are on the pill, that they are attracting people who are in their clan and their own like internal tribe, because they want that support system at that time. So there's a big push. It was the first time I was ever interviewed on television, was because of this, and just encouraging women, if you're really looking for the one and you're thinking that you're going to be with this person potentially to have a family with them, please get off the pills so that you still like what they smell like. I was with my first husband for 10 years, and at the very end we were having some bumps in the road. We did that crazy thing of thinking now's a good time to have a child, so I went off the pill and I was like, ew. ew, and I wound up getting pregnant and I had a miscarriage at 3.5 months. And so I know, I didn't know this until after the fact. The science came out, about a year after I broke up with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what happened. And it was crazy just to see that. But also, we are chemical beings, and there's certain things that I do facial reading from 3 different perspectives, and there's certain people that will be attracted to certain other people, and you're not going to be attracted to others. So seeing what that is and why those puzzle pieces fit together too are really fascinating. But there is not like a ton. I don't think that there's tons and tons of people we can be attracted to for the long run.
Wow. I am so impressed with just the breadth of your science, your scientific understanding. There's a lot to learn from you, Joy.
It's fun.
Soraya, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts.
Absolutely. So yes, we do. It seems that we attract the perfect person, like Joy was saying, to trigger us and to poke those wounds. Now that if that's not apparent, what's going on, it can be confusing. So that's why it's so crucial to have these understandings before getting into it, so that you can compare notes and create a support system for each other. And I think it is brilliant how Joy is doing that so specifically with people, and to do the inner work, however you're going to do the inner work, to understand and know your own triggers, so that when you get triggered by someone, you can take responsibility for that trigger. If I'm feeling an emotional charge in my body, mind, spirit complex, there is something inside of me that wants to be healed and addressed. If I'm totally neutral, if like this person out here is having his freak out moment or her freak out moment, and you're just like, wow, honey, how can I hold space for you? Then it's like, that's not your pattern, but you're there to create a foundation or a support. But when both people are triggered, now you've got, potentially fire and the throwing of the hot potato back and forth, unless you get these skills. So that's why it is, in fact, so very important to comprehend what's going on with these triggers. And I will add that when one starts to get more of a handle on how that works and moves beyond a significant amount of their own conditioning and trauma and woundedness, now we could also potentially be sniffing out a dharmic partner, someone who could share a life purpose. And perhaps that could even be maybe the first person you meet, and you have to work through your wounds, you stay together, and then all of a sudden more and more of the dharma or the life purpose, the mission, the spiritual higher mission can come to fruition. And so when we get into the concept of twin flames and, your soul mates, and at any stage of life, this could be, you could encounter a person like that who's a match for you spiritually on a mission level, but you may not recognize it when there's a lot of junk in the trunk, a lot of subconscious clearing that has to be done. So the prayer and the ask is, wow, help us get through, help all beings who are actually a match, who have karmic material in their subconscious, some spark residue. May they be blessed to overcome it so that they can move into more and more of their dharmic phase and live their life purpose together. But you can see how your karma and your dharma are both dancing, simultaneously in higher or lower quotients, depending on how much inner work the person has done. So that's why really the foundation is doing that inner work, so that you can get to the core of who you really are and why you're really here. And wouldn't that be wonderful if it's with a matched partner that you're attracted to physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, socially, and every other way? That'd be absolutely wonderful, right?
Absolutely. I want to read a comment from Deirdre to you, Soraya, and then there's a question from George for Joy. Deirdre writes, I'm so grateful.
Oops, looks like Scott.
I'm writing letters. I'm aware of how much I've blamed them and continue to blame them. This is not how I want to be going forward. I appreciate the reminder to honor our ancestors. I love this invitation to be humble and take responsibility. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you, Deirdre. That's beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll get more Soraya in a moment. In fact, I see a question just came in for Soraya, but I'm going to go to a question for you, Joy. This is from George, who's one of our regulars. And he writes, Joy, how have pairings, when dealing with people with disabilities? we are infamously controlling to compensate for our disability. In my case, it's a hearing challenge resulting from pre-verbal rage at abandonment with underlying grief. So that's first of all, very vulnerable question and sharing. Thank you, George.
Yeah. Thank you, George, for being so vulnerable. And I have worked with a handful of different disabilities that people have, but I think in this too, it's understanding before somebody comes into the relationship, or in the very beginning of a relationship, when they have all those wonderful love drugs, if I can do that work with them where I get them to just go through and we just look at from in utero all the way up until their current life to see, hey, is there, I call it residual yuck. Is there any residual yuck that you're just feeling in conjunction with something that happened? It could be a larger PTSD, a more micro PTSD, visceral PTSD where somebody close to you, something's happened, or, something that you just feel is not, is pulling you back and not making you be able to be your best self. So I would say that would even come into play in that. And when we go through those, we just put neutral titles to them. I have somebody who does the remote kinesiology. We're looking at things that are coming. I go 65% and above as a yes, or those things that show up as a 0, which is really interesting that we've had just a complete disconnect from. And so understanding, okay, with that in mind, who do I want to become? Who do I want to be? And I don't want to get stuck in the story of my disability. And how can I actually look at the positives of this in conjunction with being able to be a better listener or to be more attuned and empathetic to people that have disabilities, and to honor and to praise that and to see who you are, and then to look, okay, once we've cleared this and we understand who you are, who would be a good fit for you. Also understanding those 10 patterns, then I go, okay, then we know more of who she is, where she is, if it's a she, and by the end of the 10 to uncovering of the 10 patterns, normally it takes about 13 sessions. I go back through all of these wonderful deep dive questions. And at the beginning, I said, this is a big whiteboard. You can toss everything and anything you might possibly want in a partner out there. And then who you want is the we. And then we'll go back through at the end and we weight everything, both the things that are that individual's qualities and personality traits and values, and then who this we is. We go on a scale of 1 to 10, what matters most. Anything under a 7 drops off. And usually we have this core, I call it my love is list. And we've got the 10s and 9s on the side, the 8s and 7s here. And you just go, okay, who am I looking for? Where would this type of person be? And I go, okay, now we're becoming a chief marketing director, and we put our hat on and we go, where is this avatar? And I've got a list of about 46 questions we go through, which helps both me, you, and whoever my love agents are that are on your special operations team to be looking on your behalf. But I go, okay, who do I know that knows that type of person now? And I reach out to them to become special love agents and to look, but understanding who I am, and not looking at it as a deficit, but as something that would actually be a positive for the right person, and the amount of empathy that you probably have with somebody like that. So where are they and how are we going to look for them is where I go from there. But there's probably been about 6 different disabilities that I've worked with over the years. And we just approach each one of them individually and make sure that they could become the best partner they could be, that they were continuously evolving into their most interesting self so that they could hold the space. And they also were vibrating really high so that they were meeting somebody equally. They weren't meeting somebody from that hurt space, but from the space where they wanted to live in partnership. So that's where I'd start.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. Here's a question for you, Shariah. And this is from Lynn and Leaf, 2 of our regulars. What happens to the spiritual influence of the ancestors as reincarnation or resurrection happens? With this blessing and our knowledge, is there a chance to heal and help the lineage for all concerned?
Yes, absolutely. And that is a profound question. I'm actually getting chills on that one. Because what Lynn and Leaf are speaking to there is the fact that when we do this work, we non-locally and in the no time actually do healing for the entire ancestral lineage backwards and forwards in time. And so one of the shows that I have coming up is the Quantum Timelines Jumping Conference with Portal to Ascension. And so it's just reminding me of that you're literally almost like able to jump timelines now, what we might call jumping timelines. That's one way of saying completely changing the underlying foundation that then sets you on a new trajectory altogether. So yes, and if we were to, there's so many mechanics of time, past, present, future, that from our level right here, right now in time and space, the cross of time and space that we're on, that we're crucified on, so to speak, we are here in this moment for a reason. We've come here in this very specific time space moment to be and do who we are, to work through these patterns, to live out our dharma and our life purpose and discover more of who we are, and eventually resurrect or ascend and transcend all these patterns and things, and to come to comprehend ourselves more on a spiritual level. And so as we do that, all the other now moments of the past and the future are also cleansed, cleared, cleaned, healed, and forgiven. So we end up with a new perspective. We end up with a new an ability to see nuances we maybe couldn't have seen before, because we were blinded by any egoic samskaric residue that was still there from our past lives or our ancestors or whomever. And so this gets sort of really large picture again and very esoteric in a way, but maybe it's just a way of dropping in with that big picture thinking, to be like, okay, well, I'm here and now in time and space, and what I do here and now has an imprint and an effect on everything everywhere, and especially on my own perspectives, beliefs, viewpoints, what words come out of my mouth, and therefore what actions I take, which come from what we imagine and what we think and what we feel. So you've literally just changed the field, not only for yourself, but for everyone and everything. It's sort of that idea of the butterfly's wings flapping. The entire universe just changed when the butterfly flapped its wings somewhere. And so this is a bit of a mystery that we may not fully cognize or understand until we move beyond back into our spiritual home as spirit. Maybe we'll get lucky and be able to completely comprehend that in this lifetime and in this embodiment. But for the moment, we can embrace the truth that as we do the inner work, we do have a positive, powerful impact on everyone and everything.
Once again, boom. After you speak, I was like, it's like taking a really big bite that's delicious, but it takes a little time to chew it and digest it and maybe reach for a couple of enzymes.
Thank you, Scott and Sharia. Thank you.
I'll bring Lynn and Leaf on for a moment. This is who asked that question.
Sharia. Oh, beautiful. Hi there.
Hi.
So grateful.
Thank you. And that stuff does give me chills to realize that we now are in a position not only to help physically the lineage, but what spiritual aspects can we cleanse, heal, and transmit, knowing that grandma isn't in the spirit world. She's already been reborn. And how can we, and what should we be doing in respect to that, other than just accepting that that's reality? Thank you so much.
Don't worry, I'll find you.
We can send blessings to all of our ancestors.
But even if someone has reincarnated, there is no time as we think there is. So in other words, my understanding is that we are simultaneously in the astral plane, in our past lives, in our future lives, and they're all actually sending messages and information to each other. Is that your understanding, Shreya?
Yes, and a lot of times people do tend to reincarnate into the same families, and we travel in packs a lot of times. We have soul family that we tend to travel with and reincarnate into. And we also have karma with certain individuals, and so we're going to reincarnate with them until we work that out. And
Yeah.
again, the karma is and it could be that we have karma with our soul family too, that we travel with. And that's basically the repercussing of past actions into the now timeline. If we face it, deal with it, love it unconditionally, love ourselves and others unconditionally, and don't react out of the pain and trauma, and instead feel the burn. It's like we don't throw the hot potato. We
Mhm.
actually hold the hot potato. We like, dang, this is hot. This thing is really, really hot. And we let it burn out of our system because we don't want to drop the hot potato and like ignore it and push it down and repress it and make it wrong. We don't want to throw it at the other person. So that's where we get to sit right here and now with the pain, with the trauma, and allow it to move through our nervous system so that it can actually go away. So that's that taking of responsibility. And it takes a certain level of acknowledgement of one's own ego, personality, and it's what it likes to do in its game in order to be like, okay, my ego is thinking this, my mind is thinking this, I really want to react, but I'm going to breathe instead, and I'm going to feel it here.
Oh, beautiful. I'm going to bring Joy back on. There's actually a question for George, and I'm going to kind of add on to that question. George asks, did Joy and Shreya use any of Ken Wilber's teaching on integral relationships? And I'm going to just add to that, who are some of your influences? So maybe we'll hear from Joy first and Shreya. Ken Wilber or other influences? Obviously, you mentioned John Gottman already.
Yeah. So when I started Joy of Romance, I went back, I got my MBA, wrote the business plan. I had a big vision, and there's still a big vision behind it of kind of becoming the Martha Stewart of romance. However, she's a little crazy, so probably not Martha Stewart, but Food 52 of romance, which is just a beautiful site that I appreciate. Also, when I finished my MBA, I had this beautiful epiphany happen with birds come to me in all different ways. So I was about 5:30 in the morning. I was heading to the gym. I had climbed up this hill and was getting on the freeway. And I thought there was one of those like funny plastic owls. And I'm like, how in the world is that sitting up? And I could see it as I was approaching it on the freeway. And it flew right at me as I came to it. And I was like, whoa, that meant something. So I messaged a good friend of mine after I worked out, who I often called upon to interpret my dreams. And I said, hey, what do you think this means? And he said, stop thinking you need to take another course or take another something, like you know a lot, and, just expand upon what you know, but you don't need to get I was thinking, like, do I go get a doctorate? Do I get my therapist license? What do I do? And so at that time, I pitched to two potential venture capital firms. I said, I don't need your money right now, to my friends who were working there. I said, but I really just like to know if I'm on the right train of where I want to take this. And so could your people play devil's advocate with me? So I had that crazy experience of, pitching to them. And they both said the same thing. You know your target market, have great online and offline modes of revenue, the value proposition. Now go become Joy of Romance before you ever ask for funding. And I was like, what does become Joy of Romance mean? And I sat with that in conjunction with what had just happened. And I thought, you know what? I've got some really great people I've been studying, and I traversed America to all my favorite therapists, neuroscientists, biologists, social anthropologists, the guy who created the facial action coding system, Dr. Paul Ekman. So one of my favorites is Dr. Helen Fisher, who created chemistry, Dr. Sue Johnson, who really, I think, is the only person who can take somebody back from the very slippery slope of going downhill with her work and be able to bring them back up into a loving couple. The Gottmans, of course. I studied also a lot of neuroscience with Daniel Siegel. I appreciate the works of Daniel Goleman, and studying in conjunction with some of his teachers. And so I just tried to see all the different patterns. Another person in Minnesota, Dr. Willard Harley. And so I loved that I was seeing science finally catch up with self-help books, and we were seeing what really made things stick. And we could see whether there was something caused the thriving couple or a demise of a couple. And with that, I took those 10 core patterns. So, and I continuously add to the science. I just think if we can not be blindly controlled by some things that just are who we are and how our operating system and software is, that we don't need to make a story up about it. So I love integrating that and integrating all of these other components and really helping people to just become more emotionally intelligent in the realm of love. So,
Wow, beautiful influences, and thank you for sharing that. Shariah, Ken Wilber or other influences that you'd like to share?
Thank you. I've lightly touched on Ken, but I never felt a full pull there for whatever reason. Sometimes we don't know why. We just are following our own path, I suppose you could say. My path included direct downloads and experiences as a child and a teenager, where I started working on myself because I saw the relationship patterns of my family and my parents and my grandparents, and they were very troubling. And so I literally started working on myself. I created a program called Writing It Out when I was 16, where I would just like write what was happening with me, because some part of me knew, woohoo, we need to get to work here on these family patterns. And then by 18, the earth was talking to me. In my early 20s, I started feeling the goddess, and I studied all the world's religions. And then I started taking a lot of trainings. One of the first ones was soul clearing. I was also very involved in Native American ceremonies and things like that back in my 20s as well. Soul clearing, healing touch. I became a traditional Thai yoga massage therapist, which has to do with the electrical system and healing the energy flow in the body. And I also took a dozen or more other trainings, such as forensic healing, theta healing, things of this nature that just kept adding. Plus, I kept getting direct downloads about healing modalities and ways of doing things that, come from, as we all have, our past lives, who we have been in other timelines, what we carry forward with us, and the benevolence of Source Creator to support me in being of service. So this has been my path, and it as Joy said, also, it continues to develop through time as we go. We learn more. I used to be much more of a huff puff, pull it out of you, fire breath, dragon energy, like get the energy out. In my 20s, it was very rambunctious, you could say, I guess, of energy work. And it's very much calmed down now to where I work with people more somatically to feel and know what's happening in their own body, mind, spirit complex, so that they can learn the skill of doing the work. And that's what happens as part of what my course, that I think we'll talk about a little later, is all about, is helping people learn the skills of this energy clearing for themselves.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm beginning to get the questions coming in from our Facebook friends. And I'm going to consolidate. Robin wrote a beautiful story. Thank you, Robin, for sharing your story with us. And the essence is that she's been single for 15 years, is now in her 60s, and really doubts if she'll ever find a partner. And she really longs for it, but just hasn't found it. And so her question for you, Joy, is it just there's some people that time runs out and it's just not going to happen? Or have you seen people that have been single for a long period of time find the right one?
I like that question quite a bit. And I feel as though so many people have gotten to a place where they're like, yeah, it's just easier to be by myself because I like me, I like doing what I do, and I can kind of more control over the situation instead of inviting something in that could be chaotic. So I don't think that there's any running out of time. I think that there's maybe sitting with yourself and going, oh, actually, seeing what's possible and the hope of what's possible. And I really feel the work that I do allows people to open to new possibilities. And even if they've not chosen wisely several times, to go, oh, okay, if I understand what does fit best for me, because we can have chemistry with anyone, we can continue to, have great sex with anybody, but it doesn't make them a good long-term partner for us, because if there's just so many oil and water combinations, it's going to be hard work. And so my work is to help somebody understand themselves the best they can, understand who would be, a good fit for them, going, okay, as long as I'm getting 75% of what I'm looking for, we can work on that 25%. So that's the good core base. If I got 75, I match, and I match you 75% of what you're looking for. Awesome, solid base to go from. And to be able to know, I've chosen wisely. I choose you. I think that all of this online dating and apps have done a real disservice to our brains. And Dr. Helen Fisher talks about that you get to this place of overwhelm and FOMO, fear of missing out. And you just keep looking and looking and looking and shopping and shopping and shopping, instead of going, hey, actually, I got a really good one here. And if we both commit and we choose and we know that we've chosen wisely, wow, we can really set this incredible foundation down. So when people come to start listening to me, I also have a show every other Tuesday that I do, a Zoom show that it's called the Intelligent Love Office Hours. And it's a precursor to a podcast that I'm creating again. I started it 15 years ago. It's being rebirthed. And so teaching people what's possible when you choose wisely and how absolutely magnificent that can be. I think that it reignites people's desire to really want and to strive to find that type of partnership, and to know how to lay the foundation. You're not going to find somebody who's maybe done all the work if you've done the work with me, but you know how to ask for that in a way that you actually kind of go, oh, wow, I could be that with you. And the excitement of who we could be together, just as Shreya was saying, it's like, if you choose that person who was willing and ready to do that work with you, they might not even know, but if you have the ability to have that type of conversation with them and to present what's possible, then they'll want to step into it. And once, if you know from the work that I did where those like hurt spots are, where those self-limiting beliefs are, and you've done that early on, when you get to that place when inevitably, I say, the little kids are throwing sand in the sandbox at one another, sometimes when you're in the muck, you can't see it. But if you've had somebody do this work, then you can go, oh, okay. It's also bringing the work of Dr. Sue Johnson. We know where those little kids are, poking at each other, and then to create some really fabulous pattern interrupts, and again, teaching how to deal with that conflict in a way that we already agreed to this, and we already see where we want to be. This is just a speed bump. We're going to get over it. And actually, we're going to be so much stronger on the other side of it. So opening to just all these exciting possibilities of what can happen in a partnership that not very many people are practicing, but I can definitely help people put the infrastructure in. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to read a few comments, and then I've got a question for Shreya. Roger, who is with his beloved wife, Bonnie, they are regulars, says, for me, it helped to ask divine guidance, my guardian angels, and to surrender to spirit and to trust for divine timing toward the right person. That led to Bonnie and Roger. I'll put them on camera there for a moment. There they are. It worked, Roger. That divine guidance came through. Congratulations. I love that. George writes, Satguru, among his many video talks, tells us that we place too much emphasis on having a partner. He evidently thinks that focusing on the intermarriage is sufficient. He, of course, is around 66 years old now and already had a wife and daughter. And Scotty Satori writes, my daughter and I both raised our hands that we love being professionally single. We're loving it. Lots of love. So thank you for those comments. I'll mention something that I've observed as a coach. It seems that 10, 20, and beyond years ago, everyone was looking for their partner. And now I notice that more people are looking for their community, whether they're single or whether they are in relationship. There's more, I see, a focus of, I'm looking for my tribe. I'm looking for my community. So that's something that I've observed. Maybe next time Joreen comes on, she can talk about that. But I have a question for you, Shreya. Again, I'm consolidating a very long question that came in on Facebook. This is from Jojo. Jojo shared that he had a very abusive father that he always wanted to love and be loved by, and the father is now deceased. And the question basically is finding the balance of acknowledging his anger and his rage while also coming into compassionate understanding and forgiveness. Any tools for that balance? Because Jojo shared that he stuffed, when his father was dominant apparently, and he would stuff his anger because it wasn't safe, because his father was a bigger dinosaur. Those are my words, not Jojo's. So you get the idea of the question.
Yeah, so when we, again, as we began this show here, we stopped and we stilled the mind and we came into our breath and into our heart center. So I recommend that as an initial process to just simply allow the mind to rest in the heart, to breathe in and find that heart center while we're doing the belly breath. And okay, I'm being reminded now, so doing that is a very basic skill that will help whatever material wants to come up to be able to flow through the system more up and out. And now this is also obviously a deeper issue where sometimes with that old trauma that was put in there over time, you may want to reach out to some support from someone that you resonate with, whoever that is, to clear that energy pattern out of your system. And it's not necessarily going to happen overnight. However, there are skills that you can begin to utilize that will allow you to literally move the energy out of your system. And that is something that I do help with. He could reach out to me if he wants, or really the most important thing is just finding someone that you resonate with to support you with that. Now, one thing that's coming to mind from one of my teachers, she's actually a teacher of Vastu Shastra. And Vastu is an ancient Vedic system of architecture, art, music, theater, and dance. Now, in these ancient Vedic traditions, we talk about Brahma, the creator god, right? So Brahma, the original creator that came and became all of us, right? So God, Source, Brahma, whatever name you want to call it, embodied itself into form and then fragmented itself into sparks of light. I like to call it refracted synergies of light, kind of like facets on a diamond. And so each one of us became one of those facets. And the goal of Brahma was to experience everything. And everything isn't necessarily pleasant or happy. Now, might seem like a strange goal, but it seems like at some level that was the goal of this creator. And now, breathing into that, like that means the source came forth here to experience even the pain, even the trauma. And so when we don't digest that experience, like some of you were saying earlier, Scott, with the enzymes, sometimes we need some enzymes to help us digest the experience. But perhaps I would invite Jojo and anyone else who's had a challenging individual in their lives to, if you feel guided, to join me right now in acknowledging God in that person having the experience of those distortions. And that person having the experience of those distortions might have impacted you to have certain other experiences of different levels of pain, trauma, even sometimes joy, sometimes, benevolence, beneficence. But in this case, it was a traumatic experience that led to anger and rage, understandably so. And so I would invite Jojo and others to simply acknowledge God in that being having that experience, and acknowledge yourself. We can acknowledge ourselves for having had that experience of being treated that way. Okay, that's what abuse felt like. That's what it felt like to be undermined in those ways. Okay, I'm now complete with that experience. And perhaps there will be tears from that, and perhaps there will be emotion arising from that. So I would just recommend unconditionally loving ourselves, through that as that arises, and just allow it to come to completion once and for all. God, source, Brahma, dad, had that experience. It gave you an experience, you've had it. Now let's call it to completion with unconditional love. This is what unconditional love is. All that is as it is because it is.
Whew. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to bring Joy on to add something, but I'm actually going to share a story. One of my closest friends, I know her very, very, very intimately, had a horrific grandfather. He was clearly suffered from narcissistic personality disorder. He was a cocaine addict. He blew through the family fortune. He did terrible things, finally committed suicide and pinned a note to his dead body, blaming the suicide on my friend's mother, who was traumatized by it. And this was a man who, her father, who had abused her in every way imaginable. Really, really about as horrible a life as you can imagine. And so my friend had shared with me a lot about the impact that her grandfather had on her and on the family. And she went to a psychic that I know is excellent, someone who I've actually worked with and who's really high level. And the psychic shared with her, your grandfather is now the guardian angel, or a guardian angel for you and your family. Because when we leave our body, we do leave the personality and we go into the spirit realm and we review our life. We have our life review. And often people who led lives like that, such as your grandfather, so want to make amends that they commit to doing everything they can to support and guide their ancestors. And sometimes they'll stay with ancestors going down 7 generations or more. And I just thought that was such a fascinating reframe of, even if somebody in their human life was distasteful, painful, cruel, whatever word you want to use, that doesn't mean that once they've left their body, they're still in that mindset. And actually the exact opposite might be true. So we'll bring Joy on in a moment, but sure, I'm just curious as I share that story, how that maybe resonates or relates to anything you've observed or perceived.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of amazing near-death experience stories and other types of stories about people who get a glimpse to the other side. And literally, we lift off of all of this duality that we've experienced here. We've come into the realm of duality, good, bad, and otherwise, like all the opposites. And we've been dancing in this duality for quite some time. And I think as a collective, we are making a decision to finish up the karmic dances of duality so that we can reunite in that higher consciousness again, even in our bodies on the earth plane, I would say. And yes, people do speak to, as a medium also, I don't put myself out there as a medium, but pretty much anybody, I can talk to. And sometimes ancestors or people do come in and give messages. And most often it is messages of, I'm sorry, I love you. Please forgive me, and yes, sometimes they do stick around to support the relatives that are still in the earth plane. And sometimes they come in on special missions with special messages rather than being there all the time. But I would corroborate what you're saying there for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Shariah. All right, I know that Joy had something she wanted to share around JoJo's question.
Maybe Lily Bear did too.
Hey, Lily Bear.
Well, I was going to tag on to what Shri was saying. Is I've seen this incredible conflict avoidant epidemic that's been happening. Sorry, of being able to not only like conflict avoidant of your in your interpersonal relationship, but conflict avoidant of even not wanting to tap into. Sorry about that, Lily. Okay, being able to tap into ourselves and like if we have pains, we don't want to talk about the pain that we're experiencing. We want to be happy all the time. We just want to put on this like happy, it's okay, sweep it under the rug attitude. And when you're in relationship, if I teach my couples to go, okay, man, this right here, it might suck right now, but guess what, if we go through this and we get to the other side and we still see this horizon together, I'm going to learn about me, I'm going to learn about you, and I'm going to be able to learn about this we and strengthen this we. So let's bring it, and to get into that attitude of rejoicing, of tapping into the pain, and to allow it to work through, and to create the right structure to have a very healthy way of dealing with the pain. But even with all the health things that we have nowadays, it's like we're sweeping that under the rug. We want to be strong, we want to be tough, we want to not complain about things, we just want to be happy all the time. And I was like, I think we've gotten like out of whack because of that. And that's another reason why when you're first in love, I love to warn people, it happened to me, it's happened to tons of couples that I've worked with, is that they've gone through my training or whatnot, and then they go, oh, I found the one, I'm so excited, I found the one. And I always go, okay, but sometime between the next 3 to 9 months, one of you, either consciously or unconsciously, is going to go, oh shit, I could be with this person forever, and I gotta find something wrong with them now so I can like run legitimately because I pointed to something. Well, I can't fix that, can't change that, gotta go. And so I want people to understand, it's like one or both of you will have one of those freakouts. And if you know that you've chosen wisely, you've done the work, you can see that there's at least that 75% match on both sides, to just hold that space for the person. Like, it's okay, you can freak out. And then you come back in, and as you were saying, Shrai, like one person or the other, if they can hold their, the space and to breathe into that instead of being triggered and going that downward spiral, then you can come back when they're not as triggered. When your vagus nerve gets tripped, you go into fight, flight, or disassociate. Never a good time to continue talking because your head and your heart cannot speak together anymore. And so when you have that, they've come back down and go, yeah, I understand that. Like, that's something we can work with, because look at all this good stuff that we can create together and who we are when we come together as this interdependent, unit. So it's worthwhile to lean into that, to learn what we can do to become better together. And thank you for bringing that up to me, because that helps me be my best. So
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, believe it or not, we're actually in the winding down time. So we've only gotten a homeopathic dose of Shariah and a homeopathic dose of joy. May the joy grow, may the Shariah grow. So I do want to let people know how they can get more of you. And for Joy, her website is direct.me/joy of romance. And Joy of Romance, of course, is her moniker. And there's all sorts of things that you can find here. She's got videos, articles, her LinkedIn profile, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. She's everywhere. But the most important thing is, let's click where it says subscribe. And that's where you put in your name, like I'm doing right now. You put in your email address and you subscribe, because she's got some wonderful courses and opportunities coming up. Oh, they're sending me a code. Want to make sure that I'm actually really me. Okay. I'll put in the code in a moment. Joy, tell us about your upcoming course or courses.
thank you. Yes. So I've been teaching one-on-one for the last 15 years, what I call the Book of Me as a Partner. And again, it's those top 10 relationship patterns, and being able to become your best self in partnership and know how to choose wisely and put that strong foundation down. I'm now doing that as a group cohort course that will be happening several times a year, but we're about ready to open the doors for the very first one, which I'm really excited about. And that's also going to have an inner community of intelligent love. And then the second course I'm teaching is with an incredible gentleman you might want to know sometime. His name is George Joyce, and he wrote a book called 101 Things That Women Should Know About Men But Don't. And we had just a fabulous conversation in one of my events together that went 3.5 hours, could have kept going. And we just knew we were onto something. So we are co-creating for both singles and couples a course that's called Intelligent Love, Dating and Mating with Purpose, Clarity, and Ease. And both of these will be 2.5 to 3 month long, once a week course and interactive community connection. And in the new year, I'm also creating the course for the we. So it's called The Book of Us as a Couple. And so anybody who would like to know more about those, I just encourage you to message me. I'll put you on the list as soon as those doors open up.
Beautiful. Thank you, Joy. Again, I'm just so impressed with just your expansion of understanding. When I first connected with Joy professionally, she was doing these wonderful events where she would make the most delicious food and then play games together. And I miss those. I hope that you do another one soon.
I know. And then they evolved into Devoured, and then you got to go to
Devoured.
Devoured.
I was trying to remember the name. Yeah.
That was an amazing amount of musical pieces coming together.
A lot of work to put together the Devoureds. Were these delicious meals. And then my partner at the time, Emily, and I came and we taught at a couple of you Devoureds. And yeah, that was really special. Well,
Thank you.
Joy, I have such respect for you. All right, I'm going to bring Shariah on. Similar thing, Shariah, everything we've always wanted to know about you, but we're afraid to ask. Again, you can learn more, and I'll put this in the chat box again, at createyourworld.podia.com. Tell us about the Alchemy of Forgiveness training that I'm looking at here.
Thank you. So this training is the first one that I've put out to train people as an online course in some of these energy clearing processes that I've developed over the years. And it's an entry-level training, and there is a wealth of information here in this course, including background comprehension related to what we were going over today, diving in a little deeper with that, and also learning the mechanics of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is really about clearing the residual causes of suffering. It's about clearing and cleansing the subconscious mind. And we have been diving into that a little bit today. And in the course, I've actually provided tools, including worksheets that you can print out to go through a very thorough and intensive process of clearing for anyone involved in a sticky situation, whether it's a romantic relationship, a family issue, a legal issue, any kind of challenge that's arising. You can bet that it's got layers and levels of that karmic residue that we're speaking about that can be cleansed, cleared, cleaned, healed, and forgiven if we know what we're doing. So in some of the stickier challenges of life, we need to be very in-depth in how we clear. And so the process and the worksheets and the printouts in that course guide you through the process of learning how to do that. And I recommend that we do it regularly with all of our relationships. The Hawaiian Huna call it Ho'oponopono, and this is a advanced version of Ho'oponopono plus other things that I've created over the years and learned over the years to practice with people. And so it's a self-help training, so how you can start to take up the mantle of your own abilities to clear yourself as you go and dive into some of these deeper issues with a little bit of support.
Thank you so much, Shariah. Just beautiful, beautiful work. I'm going to add Joy one more time. We're going to go to Omashar for a closing song, but thank you both. I have so much respect for both of you, and you're bringing really important tools and practices and wisdom to the world with joy and with Shariah-ness.
And I just want to acknowledge just the incredible material and information that Joy has brought through. It's very inspiring and grounded, and I have you in mind for people now. So I will be sharing your work with others as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I just want to say, if anybody also just wanted to be a part of my matchmaking database, reach out to me, because there's ways to do that. So it expands the whole globe. I work with matchmakers all over the planet. So yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go to our beloved brother Omashar, who has been patiently standing by and
No, I don't patiently stand by. I'm just drinking in this amazing, again, smorgasbord. And Joy and Shariah, it astounds me the amount of information that helps me fine tune my mind. It's phenomenal. I got a lot to unpack. I'll just sing this song. It's going to be called The Tear That Lost Fear of the Ocean. And so it's kind of an unplugged version of it, but I have too much to say, so I'll say nothing. But thank you, Joy, and thank you, Shariah, and thank you, Scott, for bringing your two close women friends onto the show here. I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed. I am so blessed.
that would be a good song.
What a concept. All right, that one. Where we are. Okay. When flowers grow, dripping with dew, and rivers flow in sapphire blue, I suddenly know what a fool God I knew. I am a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. And when autumn sun kisses my cheek, whilst cool winds come from mountains peak, with poems on my tongue, but no wish to speak, I am a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. I'm a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. And sweet water, when I give you my heart, I already start to feel better. My sweet water, won't you send me your love forever and ever and ever, forever and ever and ever. Whoa, When tender hands trace memories where powdered sands meet temperate seas, I don't understand, yet I love mysteries. I am a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. And when evening stars shine all around, my grieving heart's no longer down. And things that were lost, that's where true hope's found. I am a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. I'm a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. And sweet water, when I give you my heart, I already start to feel better. My sweet water, won't you send me your love forever and ever and ever? And sweet water, when I give you my heart, I already start to feel better. My sweet water, won't you send me your love forever and ever and ever? I'm a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. I'm a tear that's lost fear of the ocean. I'm a tear that's lost fear of the ocean.
I like that one. That's a good one. I'm going to go to gallery view. Everybody in twinkling. Almost
It's
sharp.
right back at you. This is a mutual appreciation society. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Omar. Next weekend, we're going to be bringing on some of our favorite people. On Friday night, it's going to be John and Summer Raymer. They just completed a cross-country trip. They visited me in Sedona. And they're going to be sharing, Chief Phil Lane is going to join, and it's going to be all about how we are enlightening our way together. On Saturday night, it's going to be very special. Pato and Antoinette just got back from 3 back-to-back trips to Africa, where they're filming a documentary on Ubuntu, which is all about gratitude. And some of the people that they've been working with in Africa are going to be joining us. That's Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, our beloved Twin Ray are going to be right here with us live. And we're calling it Up Close and Personal with the Twin Ray, as we're going to be asking them more personal questions about their journey. And some of the questions people have always wanted to know, but might have been afraid to ask. So that's next weekend. We will send out the replays as we always do tomorrow, Monday. So thank you everybody for being with us. For anybody watching on Facebook, if you haven't already joined, join now. Join the globalpeacetribe.com. Register. You'll get the links to all of our shows, including our YouTube channel that's got all the shows we've done previously. You know, we've done 500 plus shows that I've hosted and produced since the start of the pandemic back in March of 2020, 2.5 years, almost 3, we're getting there. So a lot of amazing shows, a lot of amazing content. So come join us and be a part of that. Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you, Shariah. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Omashar. God's blessings. And remember, we can make any day sacred by choosing to see the divine in all. So happy Sacred Sunday, everybody. Take care.